Hello, everybody. WeeB'S here, and welcome back to the Otaku Overload Podcast, episode 23. Before we begin, right now that I just said 23, I love 23. It's probably one of my favorite numbers. I use it for a lot of stuff, like on my PlayStation Network thing. I think my name is Killer Rabbit 23. Just interesting fact. And I was gonna say that, yeah, 23 is just one of those weird numbers. I always remember when I watched that movie with Jim Carrey about the number 23 and how it really is. Yeah, there it gets more into conspiracy stuff about how 23 is error or whatever. I'm not gonna get into all that stuff. I think that's where it gets silly. But it is really interesting that, yeah, if you really do pay attention, you will notice 23 in a lot of media, for instance. If you really do look the person's apartment number is 23. That shirt that guy's wearing in the background, it has a 23 on it. Same thing with the what else? Just random.
The year is 23.
No, not no. But you know what I mean? It's random stuff where someone will have a shirt or a whatever, and it has a 23 on it, and it's kind of true where it really does show up a lot more than you would expect. I mean, I know a lot of people would probably argue oh, you probably just noticed it because you're looking for it, which maybe, but it's still interesting that okay, it's not like I've seen 10 show up or 54. But 23 shows up a lot, which really is kind of interesting, actually. I wonder why they choose that number. It is kind of weird.
Yeah, I wonder that too, because I know for a fact that my algebra teacher, he mentioned that too. He was like, yeah, you'll see 23 a lot in media or in general. He even mentioned that too. And he's like, if you do this equation, this one, you get 23. If you do this, 23 also pops up. And so he's like, that's the scary thing that I think it's even referred to. I think it's unlucky or lucky 23 or something like that.
Yeah.
And then he showed us the clip of the Jim Carrey movie. I'm like, there's no way this is a real movie. He's like, no, this is a real movie where he freaks out over the number 23. And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, there's more of the movie, obviously. There's more of the movie, obviously, and the person's psyche and whatever. But yeah, 23 just comes up a lot. So
yeah,
it really is one of those things where it is weird. Why do they choose 23 for the guy's shirt and the address or the whatever? It's oh yeah, 23 is just there for some reason. That is kind of weird. But anyway, enough of that. Before we drive ourselves crazy.
Yeah.
But it's just an interesting little fact. But yeah, we're here, guys. Obviously, here, Legend Jonathan's here. He's talking all that good stuff. And we're excited for this week's podcast. I know Legend of Jonathan didn't do too much, but he still has some stuff that he wanted to share he was excited about. And me, just going to say it now, I'm excited because I promised more anime. It's a pretty good anime season. I have a couple more, a few more shows to share. So I'm pretty excited to get started. So
nice.
All right. So if you care to, take it away. How did your week go?
It went pretty well. What was cool is that to add on to what I mentioned last week, when I mentioned the Ship of Harkinian, Ocarina of Time PC port, because of the decompilation of the Ocarina of Time code, I was actually able to port it onto my Switch.
Oh, nice. So it wasn't just the PC thing then. That's kind of cool.
No, yeah. It was definitely they also put it on Switch, they put it on Wii U, they put it on Linux, and then they put it on Mac.
I guess my question for the Switch, real quick, sorry to interrupt you. On PC, obviously, you can just run it as the game itself, right? Whatever. But as the Switch, do you run it using an emulator? Or do you use it? Do they convert it into an NSP or whatever you call the files for Switch? How does that work?
They converted it into an NRO, but you have to use another file that you have when you compile the stuff to make the Ship of Harkinian port. You have to grab that specific file and you have to copy and paste it into a folder. Then you put the NRO in there, and then from there you're able to run the game on your Switch natively.
As if it were any other little title.
Yeah, as though it's its own individual game. There's no emulation. It just runs.
Interesting.
It's exactly
real quick, for people who don't know anything about the hacking or whatever, because then we're kind of basically when you hack a Switch, when you hack any system, different systems use different files. So a lot of people who know about emulators, the really basic ones, let's say a Super Nintendo or something, really simple stuff. That's why you look for a ROM. because all of those old games used to use what were called ROMs, and it's just like, oh, here's the game file. You pop into the emulator, and if it's like a Game Boy Color game, they might be called Mario.gbc, or if it's a SNES game, same thing. It might be called Super Mario World dot. I forget what they use. I don't know.
SFC.
Yeah, SFC, because I think it's like Super Famicom still uses the code for it, but whatever.
Yeah.
And then when you get to games that are on disc, it would be a little more complicated. For a lot of those, you would use an ISO, which means it's like a certain image file that's like on discs. So PS2 games would be like an ISO file, GameCube games would be an ISO file, etc. Anyway, then whatever. And then getting to the Switch, if you hack a Switch, or if you look at the how the games are like put on the cartridge, they use things called either XCI, which is like if you get it from like the Nintendo online store, like digital, or it's an NSP, which means that it comes from the cartridge. And so right now, Legend of John was saying that it runs as an NRO. Basically, when you hack a Switch, you can turn, if you know how to like do it and you use the code, you can turn the code, you like run it and you compile it in a way that basically like the same way you would hit one of the little tiles on your home screen of the Nintendo Switch to start like a game, or to start it's not like a game, or if it's like a game like let's say Persona, where it comes with like the extra stuff like the photo album, stuff like that, those are NROs. And basically what he's saying is that this game has been converted in a way
where it's a homebrew game.
Yeah, where it's basically like you play it just by like clicking the tile that would say like Nintendo, Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, and you play it like if it was like you inserted it as like a cartridge, or like if you downloaded it from like the eShop, is what he's saying. So that's pretty cool. You don't have to use an emulator or anything. It recognizes it as if it was a game saved to like the SD card or whatever. So that's pretty cool.
So yeah, that was what I did, where I was able to run it. It's been running pretty good right now. I actually checked up on it when I mentioned that it was on my Switch. I literally just like pulled it out of nowhere and basically started playing.
Yeah.
Right now, when I was like exploring, yeah, I could run it up to like 60 frames and whatnot.
That's pretty good.
And like literally, like obviously, I feel like I'm gonna play it mostly on my PC. Because it looks way more glossy. I installed it first on there, obviously.
Yeah, you said it had like more options too, right?
And then it's all awkward because basically on the Switch port, basically you have to use the touchscreen to enable certain options and stuff, where you have to press like the X button just to navigate to like the certain menus, and it's like all awkward and stuff.
Yeah, I can see it. I can see it being like just easier interface and stuff on a PC. I can see that.
And so, I installed that. It was pretty cool. I was pretty happy. I'm proud of myself that I got it to work, and all that stuff. I was able to do it.
That's cool.
Other than that, I do want to talk about the next thing. So I saw that there was like multiple things, but this one caught me like the most interest because it was so simple and it came out of nowhere, basically. There's this guy, his name's Josh Tent, that he made a little demo that's called Super Mario Sunshine Game Boy Color Demake. And basically, it's like a little example of what Super Mario Sunshine, wrong game, Super Mario Sunshine would look like on the Game Boy Color. And honestly, it's a pretty good demo. Like, it kind of reminds me of Link's Awakening, where basically... for example, the reason why I'll explain it is that one, your sprites are very small. Like Mario's sprites, they're kind of like the 4 directions and they're like really small and stuff. But two, it's because if you pause the game, that's how you switch between the hover and the squirt nozzle. That's literally that's like how you how do you call it, navigate between the two options. And in Zelda, Link's Awakening, and the Oracle games, that's how you switch between items and stuff. That you have to pause the game.
I remember that. Well, I don't know if it's technically a pause, but you would have to open up the menu.
I think it was technically a pause menu, I think. Because you would press the start button, actually.
And you're right. It's true because obviously if you're in the middle of a boss fight, because I remember there's some boss fights you would have to switch stuff around. It's not like the boss attacks you.
So it pauses the game, yeah.
So you're right. It would be like pause, switch, to an item. Like let's say you had like the like for Link's Awakening, I remember for instance, it was like, oh, I have because I think you can only have like one item at a time. So it's like, oh, I have the Rock's Feather, which is the one that helps you like jump. It
Hmm.
would be like, I have the Rock's Feather. I
And my
am
sword,
gonna,
yeah.
yeah, and the sword. So let me jump and use the Rock's Feather, and then now hold on as I'm in like midair. Let me switch to like the bow and arrow or whatever, and switch to that. And like,
Yeah.
yeah, I know what you're talking about. It was like really crazy because yeah, you would have to like open up the menu to switch the items because those were only the two buttons. You know, one for like
Yeah.
sword, one for Rock's Feather, or you know whatever you chose.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because there was no R button to like use the shield. So you would have to like switch from like the sword and shield to like, let's say like a boss requires like the freaking feather and like a hammer or something. It would like require you to use those two items throughout the whole boss basically. And you
Yeah, yeah,
wouldn't have a shield or anything.
because
Yeah,
the old Game Boys, yeah, it's literally just what like the A B plus start a directional pad. That's it.
exactly. Yeah, it was just those buttons, and there was no L or R because L and R would definitely have helped a lot. But yeah, since those don't exist on the Game Boy, like, well, except the Game Boy Advance, but that's like later, obviously.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, like it's really hard because it's like, yeah, I need to swap between these two buttons, guys. And it's like, wow, okay, like I guess.
yeah,
Um, and then what's cool is that since it's a demo, it gives us three significant levels. It gives us Bianco Hills, Noki Bay, and Corona Mountain. So that's pretty cool.
nice.
Noki Bay, it's different in every aspect from Sunshine, like the GameCube, because for example, if you go um like you're basically just on the high ground. Like you don't go underwater ever, basically.
Oh, weird.
Which makes sense because of the limitations. Plus, I think it was just a demo, like he said. Like he said it was a demo and whatnot. But yeah,
Mhm.
you just explore the top, you fight against squids, which look nothing like bloopers, you know. And it's cool because you go around collecting stars. I mean, collecting what's it called, coins, and then you just end up at a certain platform. You get a shine sprite, and that's how like the game just goes, you know. And Corona Mountain, it seems like Corona Mountain and Bianco Hills are like the two biggest ones
Mhm.
because it has like a lot of buildings and exploration. And like Corona Mountain looks like something out of Zelda. Like it literally looks like you like literally I can see Link going through it and like going from one platform to another. So yeah, it was pretty cool. The demo. It's not a GBC ROM. I'll you know like let you guys know it's a jar file. So that's like Java and
But
JavaScript.
it's just made to look like it feels Game Boy
It's
Color.
made to look like it and made to play like as though it's a Game Boy how do you call it? Game Boy Color game, basically.
That's cool. Yeah, DMX story is really interesting because like those take a lot of work because you have to literally
Hmm.
work backwards. Like, okay, I know what something looks like. You know, like Mario Sunshine. Okay, it's 3D. You know, it has 3D movement. You have all these buttons, and yeah, it's like okay, if I'm gonna make it look like it feels old, how would I do it? So it's interesting to have to like work backwards and be like, okay, I'm gonna make it sprite work with only the directional pad, only two buttons. Levels have to be like much more simple, obviously. Like it's pretty interesting how people do it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah,
Nice.
so yeah, that's basically what I did. I definitely will let you guys know that next week I definitely have been planning because this week, you know, it was just those two things, but like before this, I had planned out some good stuff. Next week, I definitely will have a lot of anime though. I will let you guys know though. Like I
Okay.
definitely have a lot of stuff.
They're trying to start watching whatever.
Even if it's older stuff, I'm definitely gonna like try to watch some stuff. But yeah, I'm definitely gonna let you guys know I'm definitely gonna be watching some stuff, you know?
That sounds cool. All right, all right. Now you have somewhere to share.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So that's it for your week then. So far it was the port that you worked on, and then it was the demake.
Yes, sir.
All right. Pretty cool stuff though, all the same. All right, going to my week then, since that's it for yours. Mine was just filled with a lot of anime, both the ones that I mentioned last week, plus some new ones. It's a pretty good anime season. I mean, I think every anime season's been. Can't really think of the last time there was a bad one. Like last time anime season was pretty good too. I guess just the delays kind of messed some stuff up. I don't know. But I
Yeah.
feel like we have some pretty good ones this season. So starting with some of the older stuff, and then I'll move into the newer stuff. So last week, both of us talked about how we watched the Pokemon Horizons, the first episode. I know you said that you didn't watch the second episode yet, which, that's cool. Maybe we'll catch up later and we'll talk more about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I did watch it. And I'll admit, not like a lot happens, so that's why I don't really mind talking about it. I don't feel like it's like, oh my God, spoilers or whatever. Um, so basically, the second episode begins where the first one ends. Um, I don't think he's captain. He's like a pilot. I don't know if he has a captain title, but that pilot guy with the Charizard that we have seen all the promotional work, Fried, whatever. He's fighting the emo looking guy from the bad organization that's trying to kidnap 𝐤𝐤. And basically, 𝐤𝐤 jumps from a building. It activates her little pendant thing that she was wearing. And as she's like kind of in that bubble that's protecting her, she sees like this mysterious Pokemon in there with her. And
Yeah.
then it kind of just disappears, and like the power like kind of goes away. And then Frayed, he saves her using his Charizard because she's like in midair, and he flies off with her. And he kind of tells like the bad guys like better luck next time or whatever, and he flies off. And he leads her to a airship, like this really huge airship. And I guess him and his crew, they own this airship. And unfortunately, this is what is kind of frustrating. Also, I don't really even say spoilers. He doesn't explain to her what's happening. And it kind of sucks because they even say, "Are you leaving the girl in the dark?" You haven't explained to her because she's all like nervous. And haha, I get it. You guys are being meta, but they never do explain it, which is like really annoying. Like, really?
Dude, that sucks.
So yeah, so he just like saves her, takes her there, doesn't explain what the hell's happening. She's like nervous, and they're trying to kind of calm her down or whatever. And then that's when the bad guys they chase after Frayed and his Charizard, and they chase him to the airship. And basically, even though Frayed tries to fly into like a storm, that way hopefully the bad guys won't follow them. The bad guys do manage to follow them. They manage to get on board. And so Frayed basically, once again, he says, let's pick up where we left off. And he challenges the guy, the emo-looking guy, again to a Pokemon battle.
Yeah.
This time, though, instead of his Charizard, he calls his Pikachu, which is the Captain Pikachu. We've seen it from the promotional stuff. And yeah, this Pikachu is definitely really different. He's like really smug. And all his attacks are more like fight based. Like instead of Pikachu,
cool.
Instead of Pikachu that uses more of like his tail and like more of like electricity like from his cheeks, this dude uses like thunder punches. And he uses like the clone jutsu looking stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
And so his attacks are like really different, and he's like really smug, which is like really interesting. So it's like a totally different Pikachu. And basically him and the guy are fighting. And the girl, 𝐤𝐤, she feels guilty because she sees that the airship's getting attacked and all the Pokemon on board are nervous and she wants to turn herself over to the bad guys to stop the fighting. And because she doesn't know what's happening, blah, blah, blah. And from what I remember, they're in the middle of fighting or whatever, and then it kind of just like ends there. Like, I think maybe like the last thing they show is that they attacked the airship on accident and like maybe it's going to start like going down or something, if I remember. I forget how it ends, but that's basically it. It's as I'm saying, it doesn't even feel like they've really progressed much. Like she's still in the dark, doesn't know what's happening. We still haven't even met Roy, who's supposed to be like their main character. So that's kind of like really awkward. Where it's like, okay, they're after her and they're fighting over her and stuff, but like, why? And like, what's up with this crew of the airship and like where does Roy come in and like all that stuff? You know what I mean? So it was interesting. It was an interesting episode. Like the fights were cool. Captain Pikachu looked like he was a badass. Again, it's kind of cool. There's this team that they're after 𝐤𝐤. They seem like they're really threatening, but we still don't know what's happening, which is kind of annoying.
Yeah.
But so far, at least I'm still intrigued. I still want to watch more to see what happens. So I guess there's that,
Nice.
Then another show I talked about last week that I'll mention again, and it kind of continuation of like what happened in episode 2. So last week I mentioned TONIKAWA TONIKAWA Over the Moon for You season 2. Said I'd watch the first episode. That's the one about the guy. His name is NASA. He's really smart. When he was younger, he almost got hit by a car until a girl saved him. He said that he promised he would marry her when he was older. One day she shows up on his doorstep and she's really mysterious. We don't really know what her deal is, but she seems to be tied to the moon or something. This episode, the second episode, still about them just living as a married couple, trying to get, used to being newlyweds or whatever and living their life and, all that good stuff. And what happens in this one, it kind of was like two parts. In the first part, she asks him what he was like in school because I think she was watching like an anime or something, and that kind of got her intrigued in what he was like in school because he's always like really smart. Like they show he's always like, yeah, he basically does like freelance work on his computer. Like he like does, I don't know what he does, but he like makes money doing like really like calculations and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so she asked him, like, oh, like, what were you like in school? Were you like one of those kids that was like always correcting the teacher or something like that? And he's like, I don't think so. But he kind of thinks back to it. And he remembers that maybe he was kind of a pain in the neck for his like homeroom teacher. And he's kind of like wondering about it. And from here, lo and behold, because they mentioned his homeroom teacher, it cuts to his homeroom teacher that she is like a workaholic. And that even though one of the other teachers, like a young guy that works with her, like kind of asks her out to like hang out and have dinner, she's like, no, because I got to focus on work, blah, blah, blah. You should do the same. Like she's a workaholic. And then she happens to run into our character, not NASA, I think like the convenience store or something.
Yeah.
And she follows him home or whatever. He says, oh, I might you to my house or whatever. And after she meets, his wife and he's married and stuff, and through them and seeing their interaction and seeing how they're kind of, young but married and really love each other, and that they're kind of like, oh, we don't really let the future worry, we'll figure it out, and we'll like stand by each other, stuff like that. Basically, as she's walking away, as she says goodnight, she kind of thinks about that, like, yeah, I guess you're right, like I shouldn't always worry about the future. I should focus on like enjoying what I have around me and stuff. And it actually ends with her calling that coworker to say, like, yeah, dinner sounds good or whatever.
Oh, so she finally like, yeah, I guess I can go on a date.
Yeah, so that's kind of sweet. That's kind of like she learned from her student that kind of like, yeah, I guess you're right. I'm always like focusing on just like work and the future and worrying about preparing and stuff. But like, maybe I should kind of slow down and enjoy what I have around me. So that was kind of sweet that she actually learned from him. That was kind of cool. That was kind of cute.
Nice.
And the second part of the episode is that his brother shows up. I forget if it's actually his brother, if it's just like someone that looks up to him. I kind of forget. But this dude looks like a yakuza shows up, like where the girl works, his wife, and he looks like this total yakuza. He's even dressed like like the white suit, red undershirt, chain, blonde dyed pompadour and stuff. And at first I think he's like a yakuza. But no, it ends up that he's like actually, like I said, he's like supposed to be like, oh, he's NASA's brother or whatever. And he's asking for his advice because, apparently NASA would always help the student council and like clubs around school or whatever, because once again, he's really smart. And the whole point is that he like found this kitten, and he wants like help like taking care of it. And so basically it's all about him taking care of the cat. Yeah, taking him to the vet. And at first the cat's like a total like gremlin, he's like attacking everybody, blah blah. But then like they end up like adopting the cat, and like he's still kind of a gremlin, but shows that he's like much cuter now, and he's getting used to the couple because they adopt him, whatever. And so basically the whole point of the second part of the episode is like, oh, they adopt a cat. They have a little pet now, and they're taking care of it. And,
that's adorable.
Yeah, it's kind of funny though, because at night, instead of waking up the wife, it wakes up the husband, NASA, to ask for food. And it's like, oh, I love you, feed me or whatever. And like he feeds it, but then the next morning it's only paying attention to her again. Like the cat's a little bit of a dick, what I mean? It's kind of funny, but
yeah.
So yeah, just cute slice of life stuff, cute, comedy stuff. Once again, about this couple or whatever, and it just continues to be like really heartwarming and really, really chill if you're looking for something like that,
Yeah.
Then moving on, the other one I talked about last week was Insomniacs After School. This is the one about the two kids that apparently both have the same condition where they can't fall asleep at night. So they decide that they're going to hang out in the observatory of the school that's abandoned, and that will be like the little hangout spot to like hang out, maybe catch some Z's if they need to, etc. And this second episode, unfortunately, as they're like moving stuff into that space, like they move a couch up there that was gonna get thrown out. They put some decorations and stuff. Unfortunately, one of the teachers catches them. I think it's like their homeroom teacher, and she says, I'm sorry, but I have to report you guys. Like, I can't just let it go because you guys kind of like broke into here. And like the kid, she finds him because he's fixing the door because they had broken in. There was like a number lock, and they had kind of like learned the code and like used it to like break in basically. And in order to not do that, he was going to fix the door. Like he brought tools from home, and she caught him. And she's like, well, I can't really let this go because, you're obviously been messing with like the room and like it's too obvious. It's like the door got changed and stuff. And you really kind of beg her to kind of explain what they need it for. She says she has to report them. But then luckily
Yeah.
by the end of the episode, it shows that when they get called into the office, basically she kind of covered for them where she said that they're going to use it to be the new astronomy club. And so basically the school's really happy. They're like, oh yeah, we've been using that. We've been letting that room go to waste. And it's a shame that we're not using that microscope, telescope or whatever. So yeah, you guys are free to be the new astronomy club.
Nice.
So the teacher kind of did cover, even though she did have to say that they're using the space, she couldn't totally lie, but at least she kind of covered for them that she would be like the advisor for their club. And so she let them have the space and keep hanging out, which is nice.
That's super cool.
Yeah, and so it ends with them really, really happy that they're going to be the astronomy club or whatever. And I guess in order to like be like, well, that way it's not a lie. Sure, they set up before they can use like the big telescope, they set up like a little one, like an amateur one, and they're actually looking at the moon and they're having like fun and stuff. And I was like, oh, it's really nice that they're gonna have like a
Yeah.
little club and they get to keep hanging out together and stuff. Like that's cool that the teacher covered for them and even found like a way for them to like legally keep the room. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, that sounds very nice. I actually think that sounds very cute too.
Yeah. So again, another nice anime, really chill, really fun, and I don't know, just really wholesome. So,
Yeah.
The next anime I'm gonna talk about, it's gonna be very brief. I had talked about Heavenly Delusion last week. I had said I watched 3 episodes, and unfortunately, because of the way we record, some anime they come out like on different days of the week or whatever. So based on the day we're recording, there has not been a new episode yet since the last time that I saw the 3 episodes. So I have nothing new to report for that one. But once again, that's the one that was kind of like a Last of Us apocalyptic, post-apocalypse. And then I said that the second and third episodes had some twists to them. And then it's really weird because there's like this kid in a facility that apparently our main characters are going to show up to save them. We don't know from what, but it looks really sus. And like I said, it's like sci-fi, adventure, post-apocalypse, all sorts of stuff. And it looks like it has a lot going on. So I am excited to continue with that one later.
Nice.
Now getting into the new ones, I watched 3 new anime, and I'm still not done because I still have some, like same as you said, I have some that I'm preparing for next week that I've heard are good that I haven't gone to yet.
Yeah.
But getting into the 3 new ones that I watched, the first one is called Skip and Loafer. If you look it up in Japanese, I might say Skip to Loafer because to in Japanese means and. So Skip
Yeah.
and Loafer. And I'll read the little synopsis here and kind of give you guys an idea what it's about. So as it says here, it says, excellent student Iwakara Mitsumi has always dreamt about leaving her small town, going to a prestigious university, and making positive change in the world. But she's so focused on reaching her goals that she's not prepared for the very different and overwhelming city life that awaits her in a Tokyo high school. Luckily, she makes fast friends with Shima Sasuke, a handsome classmate who's as laid back as she is overprepared. Can this naive country girl make it big in Tokyo with Sasuke by her side? And so, yeah, basically, kind of gets us there. She's this girl, comes from a small town. She moves to Tokyo with her aunt, which her aunt's kind of a cool character, too. I really enjoyed her. Her aunt seems pretty cool, really supportive, and she's a fun character. But anyway, she moves into the town with her aunt, and basically, yeah, she's at the school. She's in the top of her class, and she wants to, go to school, go to university, make a change in the world, go back to her small hometown, help it economically. She has all these plans. But because she's a country girl, she's like does nothing about city life. So on her first day on the way to school, she gets lost. And that's where she meets the guy because she gets lost. And then this guy, like he's like this tall blonde guy, he's really laid back. So he didn't really care about being late on the first day and missing the entrance ceremony.
Yeah.
So he was heading to school late. And basically, as he's getting off the bus, no, the train, and he's talking to his friend on the phone, saying like, "Oh yeah, I'm barely heading to school or whatever." He sees her freaking out. She's like crying like in a corner,
Yeah.
and he basically approaches her. And she's freaking out, and he kind of tells her like, "Oh, are you going to such and such school?" Because I think he recognized her uniform. He's like, "Yeah, I can lead you there." And she's like super grateful. And it's funny because whenever she sees him, she always like, imagines like different animals. So the first time she sees him, she imagines herself as a baby chick, and she imagines him as like a mother goose because he's leading her, which is really funny.
Yeah.
And so he like leads her to school and he helps her get there and whatever. And then later he helps her with some other thing. It's funny 'cause she imagines him as like a friendly like golden retriever. Because the dude's just like super like just chill and super like helpful or whatever. Um but what's interesting though is that yes, it's really cute, it's very chill. It's nice seeing about this girl and she's in the city and how she's like gonna make friends, obviously, and this guy's gonna help her and they're helping one another. But we can already tell based on the end of, I want to say it was like the second or third episode, that it's not going to be all fluffy, wholesome stuff. It
Yeah.
looks like there's also going to be some serious stuff.
Mm,
Because,
a
for
lot of
instance,
animes like that get serious as it
yeah,
progresses.
I don't think it's going to get like dark either. But I think it is going to get, some serious drama to it. Because, for instance, when she goes out with her friends, well, her new friends, right? Because everyone's like, oh, come with us to like karaoke or whatever. There's a moment where she feels like really left out and she like almost starts crying until like her friend from back home calls her and she like kind of lies and says like, oh, I'm having a great time or whatever. And the friend tells her like, until you're lying and whatever. And she kind of has a moment of like doubt because she feels like she doesn't belong.
Mm,
And then there was another part where, like, I think that same guy, she kind of like really likes. I mean, it's kind of implied she might be starting to develop a crush on like the blonde guy. And there's this other girl that like, she feels like, oh, the girl was using her to like get to the blonde guy, so she feels hurt by that as well because she's trying to make friends or whatever. So like, kind of has some of that more serious stuff. And then as for the guy, the blonde guy, he seems like he's really laid back, he's really chill, he's really nice. But there's a part where the main girl, she goes to watch the like drama club. She goes to see like one of their performances, and as she's leaving, he was there too. And she's like, "Oh, I know you would be here." He's like, "Yeah, I came to check it out, whatever." And I'm going home now or whatever. She's like, "Oh, okay, that's cool." And then as he's leaving, the guy who's like in charge of I don't know if he's in charge of the club, or he's a member. He approaches the blonde guy, and the way he's talking to him, it implies that he might have been like a child actor or something. And
oh wow.
the blonde guy, trying not to be rude or whatever, he's like, "I'm not trying to be rude, but I thought you would notice, I'm trying to make it obvious that I don't want to talk about that about her in my life, all right? So like back off." And he kind of
Yeah.
leaves the guy really surprised. So it's kind of like, oh, so is he like a child actor and like something happened to him? Like, what's the deal there? So that's what I'm saying. Even though it looks like it's like a nice anime, wholesome and like really like slice of life stuff, it looks like there will be some like drama too into it, which is really interesting.
Oh wow.
So yeah, I think it's one of those anime where like I think the characters will be deeper and they probably will have like little character arcs and stuff that they have to get over. So it's kind of like, oh, so it's not just all sunshine and rainbows. It looks like there will be some serious stuff too that it might be interesting to see how these characters grow. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's called Skip and Loafer. So far, 3 episodes are out. I've enjoyed it. And yeah, it's out on it's on Crunchyroll, so it's one of those that's easy to track down.
Yeah.
Then the next one I saw that was new. This one I did only watch the first episode. Same for the next one because at that point is where I kind of ran out of time. But the first one is called "The Dangers in My Heart," and this one is so weird. Basically, it's about this kid, and it takes place in middle school. So last time was high school. This one's middle school. Basically, I'll just read a synopsis and we kind of go from there. It says Kyotaro Ichikawa may look like your average middle school student, but in his heart, he dreams of murder. Thus, it is no surprise that the one he wants to kill the most is never far off from his mind, the class idol Anna Yamada. Reading alone in his beloved school library, he inadvertently begins to rendezvous with Yamada, who comes to secretly gorge on her beloved candies and sweets. Through their interactions, Ichikawa discovers just how much of a ditz Yamada is and can't help but support her from the sidelines. Meanwhile, Yamada herself can't help but tease Ichikawa relentlessly due to his flustered reactions. With an array of heartwarming daily interactions, the distant bond between the two grows into something more than just library acquaintances. Perhaps in time, Ichikawa will come to realize that his murderous desires have turned into something else entirely.
Huh.
So it's weird because it starts off with this kid who's like, best way to describe him, I don't think he's actually dangerous. I just think he's kind of an edgelord. I just think that he thinks that if you look at like what he looks like, he has like the emo bangs covering one of the eyes, and he's one of those kids that they do show in some animes where they think they're above everyone else, and they think that they're like, main character syndrome, that everyone else is like dumb, and oh, everyone else is too loud and too silly or whatever, right? They show in
Yeah.
other animes.
You have been okay.
What happened?
I was remembering that one song that one dude made where like the dude disappears like every 3 years. That one dude, Mario Judah or whatever his name is. That there was that song that was all edgy where he's like, "You have been warned,"
Oh,
and it's
God.
all edgy.
Oh, Lord.
It's
But
like
yeah,
that.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't think he's actually dangerous. I just think he's kind of like a little edgelord. I think he just thinks he's above everybody
Yeah.
else. But it is interesting that, yeah, even though at first he's talking about like how he hates everybody and like how he hates the girl because she's too perfect, it is cute that he kind of starts to see, like, I guess, don't judge a book by its cover. And as he sees that she's not that perfect, that she's kind of silly and she's kind of fun to be around, you kind of see, at least in the first episode, as far as I got, it looks like he's kind of discovering that, like, oh, maybe she's not what I thought. And maybe she is kind of like silly, and maybe I enjoy being around her more than I thought I would, because I thought she was just going to be like this perfect, like stuck up, like student or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, as he's kind of thinking that about her, even though he's kind of like a weirdo and he's like always like really jumpy and like really like overreactive, I think she kind of starts to appreciate him too, because he's like always there and she thinks he's fun or whatever. And
Yeah.
so that's kind of what it's promising. It seems to be kind of be promising like, oh, we'll see how they like bond over time, and maybe change their opinions on each other and stuff.
Yeah.
So a very weird premise, especially because the guy talks about, oh, he has murder in his heart or whatever. Like I said, I think it's just a way to say that he's kind of a little edgelord, but it's kind of cute to see kind of how they believe let their guard down around one another and act like their true selves, I think, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'll keep seeing it. Hopefully it will be interesting. If I had to rate it, this is probably my least favorite out of the season so far.
Damn.
Which isn't bad. But I'm just saying, if you look at the ones I'm watching, what I've like said, I'm like watching like 7 new series right now. I would probably put it at the bottom. Just throwing it out there. But that doesn't mean it's bad. I still would recommend it. I still think it seems like it might be fun.
It's just not. It's like your least favorite out of every other anime you've watched
Yeah, as
so
I'm saying,
far.
like if I'm watching like 7 other ones right now it's probably like, okay, I'll put that like pretty low right now. And that one is on High Dive, so that one is a little harder to find.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's on High Dive, and yeah, it's called The Dangers in My Heart. So some people might be interested in it. Like I said, it might be fun. We'll have to keep an eye on that one, see how it progresses.
Yeah.
And finally, the last anime I want to talk about that I watched, only watched 1 episode, but it seems like it'll be funny, seems like it'll be interesting. And this one, the first new one that I talked about was in high school. The second one, Dangerous in My Heart, was in middle school. And this one goes in a totally different direction. This one is about like college-aged people. So I kind of like that. I like that recently they've made more about like older people. I think that's interesting. But to read the synopsis to you, this one is called My Love Story with Yamada-kun at level 999.
Yeah.
And basically it says, after her boyfriend cheats on her with another girl he met in-game, Akane Kinoshita learns the hard way that gamer boyfriends can be just as bad as the offline Ray. As she vents her anger by beating mob monsters to a pulp, she has a chance encounter with the Kito Yamada, a guildmate with an afro and no mask. Yamada is unsociable and curt, hardly the type of person to make Akane swoon. However, while his gaming stats might be maxed out, Yamada is inexperienced in matters of the heart, and against all odds, she finds herself moved by him. Making new friends along the way, can Akane shake the heart of Yamada, a final boss-level high school boy? Which here's his high school, but I thought she was in college. Maybe he's younger. Huh. Actually, don't know yet. Anyway, point is, whatever. Point is, so this is pretty interesting because, yeah, basically kind of how it summarizes. So there's this girl. It starts the episode with her boyfriend breaking up with her, and she's really sad because she had just gotten into gaming because of him. He had gotten her into like this like video game where I don't really know what you would describe it as, but it has paladins and knights and all that stuff. So it's like a little I guess fantasy like MMO.
Yeah.
And yeah, basically she's all sad because he's the one who got her into gaming, and then he leaves her for someone he met in game. So she's depressed. And because she's
That
depressed,
sucks.
Yeah, because she's depressed, she logs into the game to see if like he like unfriended her and stuff, and he did. And because she has nothing else to do, she starts playing like obsessively, and she's killing like a bunch of enemies. And like it says here, as she's killing the enemies, one of her guild mates, I guess someone that was on her team, shows up, and she's like kind of like venting to him about like how her boyfriend broke up with her. She's all sad or whatever. But she notices the guy, he like just like takes forever to respond. And when he responds, he's just kind of like uninterested. He just seems like really aloof. And so she's like all upset. And as she's about to log off, she notices that there's going to be a live event for the game. And she goes, okay, if he's going to attend, her ex-boyfriend, maybe if I like look my best, I can make him like jealous that he broke up with me. So she, gets all, dressed up and makes, gets a new haircut and blah, 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 shows up to the event. And as she's at the event, she sees her ex-boyfriend with his new girlfriend. And she gets like really upset, and she's like, I think she starts trying to run away, and as she starts running away, she accidentally trips and runs into a guy, and the guy who she happens to run into, she notices that the way he talks seems very familiar, and that's because it's the guy that it was her guildmate that she was talking to online. What a coincidence, right?
Yeah.
And so as she's talking to him, and she's kind of noticing, like, wait a minute, and she even says, "Are you, such and such person from online?" And she notices that he has like the same like stuff. He says the same stuff. He acts the same. Her ex-boyfriend shows up because he heard her say the guy's name out loud. And the reason for that is because the guy that she ran into, the guy that's her guildmate, he's apparently a pro gamer.
Oh wow.
And so her ex-boyfriend actually looks up to him. And when he's like, "Oh my God, it's you! Like you're, such and such pro gamer. Like that's so cool." He's like shaking his hand or whatever. And he's like, "Wait a minute! Like why are you two together?" And so the girl like bribes him with like a ticket for like a rare in-game item. She's like, "Oh, it's because this is like my boyfriend or whatever." And like the ex-boyfriend starts crying, and like the new girlfriend's like consoling him. And I guess she's kind of like feeling, I don't know if she feels bad or whatever, but it's just kind of funny because I guess she thought he would be more like jealous when I take her back, but instead he just got all like started crying, and like the new girlfriend consoled him, and I guess they left.
Yeah.
And so from there it cuts to them at the bar. This Yamada kun and the girl Akane, and they're basically, she's drinking and she's all depressed about what happened. Yamada kun, he's all aloof. He kind of is just like, why am I here? And she says about how she's all upset about what happened, blah blah blah. She's venting to him, and she kind of says stuff about being broken up with and how it sucks. He says that he wouldn't know because as it says here, he doesn't really care about relationships. All he cares about is gaming. And he kind of explains how he's like a sponsored gamer and makes money off of it, blah blah blah. And when she goes to use the bathroom, she's like crying, and she comes back and he's not there. And she's like, "Oh my God, I can't believe he ditched me. Like this is like going worse than I thought." But then what kind of like sweeps her off her feet is that he shows up and he's like, "Oh, you're back." And he has like some band-aids, and he's like, "Yeah, I noticed that like since you tripped earlier, like you're all covered like in like dirt or whatever." And he's actually saw that when you head to the bathroom, you were like you had like, some blood on you. And so he like puts like some band-aids on like her knees and I think like her like ankles or whatever. And it shows that she's all like moved, that like, oh man, like he's being so nice, even though he seems like so aloof or whatever. And then from there, I don't know, they just like keep drinking or whatever, keep hanging out. And the first episode ends with her waking up in his bed, and the dude's like this gaming online, and she's kind of like, what happened? And that's where the meme comes in. That's why I'd seen that. That's why I want to watch the show. Where there's the meme about like a girl like in the bed trying to seduce the guy or whatever, but the guy doesn't care because he's busy gaming. And I guess that's what's gonna happen. And I think she's trying to like get his attention, but he literally just doesn't care, which I think is where like the comedy will come from.
Yeah.
But it looks interesting though. Like it looks interesting because the guy's just like so into gaming and that he like just doesn't care. But it looks interesting that maybe they will build a relationship or whatever because he seems like he does care about her. He cared enough to like take her home, I guess, when she was like super drunk. I'm guessing to like take care of her, and he did care enough about like, oh, I saw you're bleeding, and he's like trying to comfort her and stuff. So I don't know. We'll see how that little relationship builds, but it's just one of those things where like the guy's super aloof and like he's all about gaming, so we'll see how that goes.
That sounds very interesting, to be honest.
Yeah, it sounds like it'll have like a fun premise. It'll be funny.
Yeah.
And we'll have to see if like he really does help her make the ex jealous some more and all that stuff. Yeah, it's not the first time they do that where there's a guy interested. I mean, it's not the first time they do it where there's like a girl interested in a guy, but the guy's like super nerdy and like doesn't like really catch her drift. Like they've done that before.
Yeah.
And I mean, they've been funny in the past, so we'll see how this one goes. Hopefully, it's good. It looks interesting, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that one is My Love Story with Yamada-kun at level 999. That one is also on Crunchyroll. So it's another one of those that's very easy to find. So there you go. All right, and that's it for my week. Like I said, I have a few more anime in my arsenal, so I'm watching quite a few of them now, but there's still at least one or two that I want to add for next week. One that I'm really excited about is that apparently the creator of Kaguya-sama Love is War, apparently they've been working on a new manga. Like they're not even that far into it, and it's already getting adapted. And so I've heard it's really good. So I'm really interested. I'm really interested to check that out for next week.
Nice.
Yeah, I have like no idea what it's about. I've tried to stay pretty blind to it, but I've heard some really good things. So I'm excited to like. That's one of them for sure. I'll try to see it by next week. So.
Nice.
Alrighty, jumping into our news week. It's gonna be a lot of. Well, actually, the first one might be kind of long. Then the other ones might be shorter because they're just kind of like announcements, basically. But as the title of the first one states, and I was going to bring this up earlier as kind of part of my week, but I thought I would just save it for here. Basically, as the title of the article states, it says Nintendo Indie World Showcase April 2023, everything announced. And so basically, yeah, there was a Nintendo Direct on, I want to say it was like Thursday early morning, Wednesday.
Yeah.
I think it was Wednesday early morning, I think. I don't remember. But anyway, there was a Nintendo Direct, one of those indie world showcases. It kind of came out of nowhere. And they announced quite a few things. I'll go over some of them. And then I'll kind of maybe kind of give a little short description of what it's about. But mostly it's kind of like one of those things where you guys should check out yourselves. For instance, the first game they talked about, this is one I'm really excited for. I've been waiting for this one for a while. They finally talked about the release date for Mineko's The Night Market. Do you remember that game? I think we talked about at some point where it's like a watercolor style where it's something about how like each week there's like a little night market.
Okay, yeah. At first,
I
didn't know what you were talking about at first for some reason, but yeah, okay. I think I remember it.
Yeah, it sounds like a watercolor style. It has something to do with those like this cat god, but then people kind of like got rid of him or whatever. And there's still statues everywhere. I don't know if maybe the game will have to do with you trying to reconnect with the cat god. I don't really know.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's really interesting because it seems like it's kind of like Stardew Valley or like Animal Crossing, where it's like a life sim mixed with every week there's that night market, and so you have to like do stuff during the week so that you can like then do stuff at the night market, if that makes sense. Like let's say during the week you do a lot of like farming and a lot of scavenging and you collect stuff. Then during the night market, you can sell all that stuff to people. Yeah. Or like let's say during the week you're doing like a lot of exploring and I guess maybe connecting with people from what I kind of saw in the trailer. Then like if there's like a little play that they're putting on in the night market, you're able to perform in it based on the fact that you like practiced for it during the week, I guess. So it's just, I don't know, it seems really interesting. The art style seems interesting. The gameplay seems really cute. It seems like there's a lot to do with, like I said, you do stuff during the week, and that kind of pays off because then during the night market, that's kind of where you like sell the stuff or put like your skills to use or whatever.
Yeah.
And then not only that, but a lot in the trailer shows there's a lot of stuff where there's like agents chasing you. Because once again, for some reason, they don't want you to like reconnect with that cat god for some reason. So there's like a little mystery there. But yeah, that game, like, they had announced it forever ago, man. I remember, like, Dad said it was going to come out. Then, no. They first weren't saying when it was going to come out. Then they were saying, oh, for sure, it'll come out like in 2022. There's no release date, but trust us. That never happened. But finally, they did say that it's going to come out on September 26th on Nintendo Switch. It says it has also been announced for PC. And if it's pretty good, I wouldn't be surprised if it hits other systems as well, honestly. So.
Yeah, that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, it's one of those games I've been excited for a while because it looks really interesting. Like the art style looks really cool. Like I said, the gameplay kind of reminds me of something like Animal Crossing or like Stardew Valley or whatever. And yeah, it just looks like there's gonna be like a lot to do. It looks really charming. So
yeah.
Then from here, there's a lot of games. Like there was one called Plate Up that looks like it's a combination of like Overcooked with like a roguelite. Roguelite means that every time you play, like the mechanics are different, like the weapons you get, the rooms you visit, enemies, stuff like that. So it looks like it's kind of like Overcooked mixed with like a roguelite. That looks interesting, I guess. They showed a game called Quilts and Cats of Calico, which is supposed to be kind of like a board game. Where I've never played it, but it says if you've ever played Calico, it's a board game about like something about patterns and whatever. So there's a game coming out. That's a game. If you remember, what was it called? Was it called Crypt of the Necrodancer?
Yeah.
The one that it was like a little like rhythm game.
Yeah, and then they made the DLC for Zelda afterwards.
Yeah, I was gonna say exactly. They're making like a little spin-off. This time it's called Rift of the Necrodancer. And the other one looked like it was like more old school. This one looks like it's more futuristic. It's kind of like a little like Guitar Hero battle sort of thing. So like that's something coming this year, which seems kind of interesting.
Nice.
And then if you remember a while ago where Video Game Donkey, YouTuber, he said he was gonna make his own game studio. It was called Big Mode.
Yeah.
Yeah, they showed that he's helping to publish a game called Animal Well.
That's super cool.
And it says, shared memory and Big Mode share Animal Well, a pixelated game in which you play as what seems to be a tiny meatball exploring a dense, interconnected labyrinth. It says the maze is filled with many dangers, including animals that will try to eat you, but items will help you escape. This atmospheric puzzler will come out in early 2024.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. That it sounds like it's definitely a puzzle-oriented game.
A little puzzle platform, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's kind of interesting because Video Game Donkey, I'm pretty sure he had nothing to like do with it except like publishing it. But yeah, it's kind of cool. Like he's gonna work on his first project or whatever. So that's kind of cool. Then there was one called Crime O'Clock, which has had to do with like solving crimes across time and space, which looked really interesting. Then there was I think I did on the channel a game called West of Loathing, where it's like a Western, cowboy type game, but everything is like stick figures, which is really funny.
Yeah.
It's like black and white and everything stick figures. They're finally making a sequel called Shadows Over Loathing. And it says right here, Shadows Over Loathing shifts the setting to a 1920s period filled with mobsters, monsters, and mysteries. So that's kind of cool because I thought the first game was really charming. I thought it was really cool how they make the whole game just using like really simple art, like stick figures and stuff. But it was like really in depth with all the stuff you could do. There's a lot of gags and stuff. So we'll see what this is like. Hopefully it's good. Then they mentioned Blasphemous 2, which Blasphemous was this pixel art like Metroidvania, I guess, from what I remembered. It was like really interesting, like the world and lore. They mentioned Oxenfree 2, which Oxenfree, I remember that game when it came out. It was supposed to be like this, like also like pixel art game, but I think it's kind of supposed to be like a thriller or something. I don't really remember too good. It's been a while since I've like really seen it, but they mentioned like the second game's coming out soon. They announced the Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach is out now for Switch, I believe.
Oh yeah, I saw. Yeah, it's out now.
Something
it's
about
out now.
Yeah, something about DLC. And then those are a few other games they talked about. I don't really remember. You can look at the list. The last one I really remember that really caught my attention is Bomb Rush Cyberpunk, coming out August 18th. And that one's basically like a spiritual successor to Jet Set Radio. It's all about like you're on skates and you're like running around like a town and like graffitiing it and stuff, from what I remember. So it looks like it's gonna be like a spiritual successor to it, which looks really cool.
Damn.
So yeah, so if you guys want, link will be below. You can look at all the games more in depth and the trailers and the release dates and stuff. But overall, I thought it wasn't like mind-blowing as a direct. I think there's some where they've had like way more things I've been interested in, but it still thought it was cool. And I was still a few things that caught my interest. Especially the whole Mineko's Night Market, which I feel like I've been waiting forever for that game. So I was excited to see that it's coming out with like an actual release date. So
yeah.
And then kind of going off of that, kind of piggybacking, they kind of go together. The second news story says Indie Live Expo 2023 to showcase over 200 titles. So basically what it's saying here is that there's going to be an event on May 20th where it will showcase a bunch of never before seen indie games. So that's really cool. So even though we're not getting like an E3, I guess they put together this little showcase where a bunch of developers and stuff are coming together. And it says here that on day one, it'll be like all the announcements and I guess like trailers and stuff. And then it says that on day two, which will be May 21st, it's called the After Show, and that's going to feature a bunch of like Let's Play stuff, and it's going to be like more in-depth like gameplay and stuff for each of the games, which is cool.
That sounds super cool.
Yeah. I gotta admit, I don't really recognize any of the sponsors or any of the companies listed here. Well, I mean, companies, yes, but they're not the ones who are making the games. Well, it does say, well, one says supporting companies, and the other one does say sponsors. I guess that's not necessarily the companies that are making the games themselves, huh?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, so I guess I was gonna say because I don't recognize any of the studios here, but it makes sense if they're just sponsors or they're like supporting like companies, then they're probably just the ones that are helping like run the show, like the ads and stuff. Because I was gonna look to see in the list if I saw like any like company I recognized and I did it, but it kind of makes sense that I guess they're not the ones who are making the games. That's why. So I guess that still remains to be seen. But yeah, I'm hoping for some good stuff. You know, I'm hoping that companies I recognize maybe are there. It'd be nice if some sequels for like stuff that I know about were there. Even if it's a company I don't know, as long as there's stuff that looks like it's fun. Like you know, I always support indies. You know that. I know you always support indies too. You like to play like stuff here and there. So I just hope it's like a really cool showcase, and I hope there's like some good stuff. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one I would be really excited for, and that's kind of coming out of nowhere. But one of the first companies I was looking for, I'm like, oh, I wonder if Way Forward would be
That's
here.
what I was thinking too.
Because I feel like it's about time that they could do like a Shantae sequel. Like at least start announcing it.
It's been 3 years now.
Wait, hold on. No, it's been longer. Because remember, Shantae and the Seven Sirens, it came out in 2019 for Apple Arcade.
I mean, I count it, but I kind of don't because of how every other thing after that got like released on every platform, and I feel like that's the major release. Especially because when it first came out on Apple, it was just one episode, quote unquote. That's why.
Well, it was like the first half of the game.
That's what I mean. That's why.
Yeah, but you still got to count it because that was the official release date. Because think about it, at that point, that meant that, you know, like that's when they started releasing it. Like if that makes sense. Because yeah, we could say like, oh, it doesn't count until like they released the last update, the last DLC, but it doesn't really work that with companies. Like you can't say like, you know, oh, Smash Bros. It didn't come out in 2018. It came out in 2022 because that's when they released the last piece of like gameplay, you know, stuff. Like no, it doesn't count that way. You have to look at when it first released. Because think about it, if they feel comfortable enough to release, even if it's just half of it, that means that they're probably like that's like to the side, and they're already working on the next game like in the background. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, so it's 4 years. So yeah, I think that they could probably make another one. But yeah, because if they're working on it for a while, they just haven't announced it.
I would say if they at least announce it now to release like next year, that makes sense. Because okay, it would be like 5 years then, you know, from release to release.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we'll see. But anyway, there you go, guys. If you want to read it, it talks about the sponsors and who's gonna, you know, back the event and stuff. I mean, I guess it's kind of interesting. I don't know. But yeah, it's kind of cool. I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, I'm hoping there's some good games and some good gameplay and stuff. So we'll have to see.
Yeah.
And finally, the last news story. It's a pretty short one because again, it's just kind of an announcement. But as the title of the article states, it says Sonic the Hedgehog spinoff series Knuckles at Paramount Plus sets cast. And then it includes some people who I don't know who these people are. I don't know who these people are.
The second person, Tika.
Sumpter?
Yeah, that's the wife of the main character, dude.
Okay,
that's what
her.
I mean. That's her.
Okay. Cool. Oh, and then yeah, and then the one that says Adam Pally, that's Wade, who's the whole point that Wade is
He's
the
a dumb dude.
okay, I got you. So
Yeah.
that's what it says, including them, because that's people from the other movies. I got you. Okay, I understand a
Hmm.
little better now. Cool, cool. So yeah, we kind of jumped ahead a little bit, but yeah, basically, guys, not really much to say. All it says is that yeah, that they kind of have the cast. It lets us know that yes, um, the wife of Donut Lord, she's gonna Maddie, she's gonna come out in the series. We don't know like what part she'll play, but you know, if for maybe Knuckles is living with Sonic and Tails, like let's say they're all living together with Donut Lord and his wife. Maybe she'll come out every so often because you know she's the one that kind of maybe she's
She's
like
like their
around.
mom, basically.
Yeah, so maybe she's around or whatever. So she'll come out for sure. Adam Pally, who played Wade, he'll be around. And all we really know so far is that it says the film takes place between the events of a film. I thought it was supposed to be a show. Hold on.
It's a sh
Yeah, that's right. It's a
Oh,
series.
so someone literally probably messed up that
Yeah,
far.
yeah, because it says here the
The
film,
film.
I think they mean series, takes place between the events of Sonic the Hedgehog 2 and Sonic the Hedgehog 3, which is slated to hit theaters December 2024. It says in the series, Knuckles agrees to train Wade as his protege and teach him the ways of the Echidna warrior.
Damn.
So that's all we really know. So all we know is it's supposed to be about Knuckles. A part of it will be about him training this Wade guy, I guess, so that he can like be like a more of a warrior. I know another thing that had said that it'll also focus on him being like a fish out of water, which makes sense because you know it looks like Sonic's pretty well adjusted at this point. Tails looks like he wasn't having that much trouble, honestly. Knuckles is the one that you know he's never really interacted with people until the end of like the third movie. He's always been like really alone. So I guess it'll kind of be about him like being like around people, I guess. So all we really know is it's gonna be about focusing on him, being kind of a fish out of water. It's gonna focus on him training that Wade guy, and that's all I really know for now. But it'll help
Yeah.
connect to the third movie. So
Yeah.
and yeah, we'll see how that goes. Will other Sonic characters show up? Who knows? It would be kind of cool that if they are following the movies, you know, we did Sonic 1, then we did Sonic 2 and 3 in the Sonic 2. It would be kind of cool if this one did maybe show like the Chaotix or something. But I don't know, it might be too soon. Maybe that's too many characters for them to tackle. I don't know. But we'll
Or maybe
see.
they might not want to introduce them for some weird reason, or you know.
Yeah, maybe they don't really care for those characters. Like maybe they just want to focus on like the big three, plus Shadow as an antagonist, Robotnik. There's been rumors maybe we'll get Amy. We'll see. You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's kind of okay. So the show is moving forward. You know, interesting, interesting. And like I said, that's it though. That's kind of it for the week. You know, a lot of just announcement stuff, a lot of just recap stuff. So, you know, there you go. But that doesn't mean that there's not stuff to look forward to. Like I said, I'm looking forward to some of those indie games from the showcase. I'm looking forward to Indie Live Expo in a month. And I'm looking forward to the Knuckles show because I'm still curious about, you know, what'll happen. So yeah.
Yeah.
Alrighty, and last but not least, this time we do not have really a topic of the week in the sense of like a series or like a video game or anything. As Legend of Jonathan kind of explained earlier, he's kind of trying to catch up on some stuff. That way maybe we'll having more of those like series to talk about. Kind of like when we did 𝐤𝐤𝐤, which was something that was totally new to him, but it was kind of cool that he watched it so we could talk about it. So we'll kind of see how that goes. For this week, then, what I'm proposing is the same as last week. I want to share a YouTube channel that I like, so hopefully people will check it out. And for this week, I want to talk about a channel called Totally Pointless TV. And as he himself says, he does video essays and stupid videos. I don't know why he says stupid. I don't think his stuff is stupid. I think his stuff is pretty good.
His
But
stuff is stupid. I'm kidding.
okay, I started insulting it. All mad. But yeah, basically, he is this YouTuber from the UK that does all sorts of like video essays that I think they're really good. Basically, the way that I kind of ran across this channel is that I was looking up Silent Hill stuff. I think is the way. And at some point, you know, I was looking up Silent. Oh, I think I see why he says the dumb videos. Because about a year ago, he used to make other stuff. It's only the last like year He's been making like video essays. That's why I didn't really even like look at his channel
Mm.
because I'm still really new to his channel. I'm seeing what he's talking about. Anyway, yeah. So his early stuff is kind of weird. Who knows if he'll kind of go back to that? But his new stuff is all video essays. That's what I'm trying to get into. Yeah, I ran into his channel because I was looking up Silent Hill stuff, and yeah, it's really cool because there's a few videos he did, like one that's called the Silent Hill Everyone Hated, and that's the one where he's talking about Silent Hill 4 The Room, which was like really mixed reception. And then
Yeah.
he not long after that, he made one called, oh, hold on, sorry, I'm doing it out of order. Sorry. He made one called The Silent Hill Everyone Hated. That one was on Downpour, which Downpour, yes, was still very mixed, but it's still considered bad. All right. It's considered bad, but it's not considered the worst in the series. So he talked about that one. Then from there, he talked about the one that people usually do see as the worst one, which is Silent Hill Homecoming. And he did call that one the Silent Hill everyone really hated. Because that one's the one that, like, oh my God, I could talk about it all day too. It's just so bad. Like, it wanted to be all like action oriented, but Silent Hill is not action oriented. And it wanted to have like this like army guy as the main character when like they've always been like an everyman, and there ended up being like all these twists that were really stupid, and like it was just so bad, dude. It was so bad. But yeah, so basically he covered these two first. So the ones that could kind of be considered like the worst, that people like consider them like bad, right? Like no question.
Yeah.
Then he did Silent Hill The Room, and he calls this video the most controversial Silent Hill. Because that's the one where some people say that they consider it bad. They say this is where the series started going downhill. And some people say, no, I would still count it as one of the good ones. It's not as good as 1, 2, and 3, but I would still like, give it a passing grade. Yeah, so basically the way they rank it, let's say like Silent Hill 1 is like an A minus. Silent Hill 2 is an A plus. Silent Hill 3 is A, maybe A minus. Silent Hill 4 is a B minus. Homecoming is like an F. And then Downpour is like a C. Yeah. So you kind of see the ranking of how it works, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so The Room is kind of controversial because some people say it's the beginning of the end. Some people say no, it's still okay. You know, it wasn't as great. It wasn't like in the A range, but it was still all right. Anyway, all that aside, so yeah, I watched all those videos. I really enjoyed it. Didn't really subscribe to the guy at the time because, you know, I just watched those videos, enjoyed them, and kind of moved on. But then just like a couple weeks ago, out of nowhere, I don't even know why, I got recommended a video of his called No More Heroes. And it says the most insane game franchise ever. And it's just like this whole retrospective of the whole series. You know, he goes over the events of all the games, you know, in order and everything. And, you know, and that kind of made me fall in love with the channel again. I'm like, oh, I remember this channel. And so I did sub this time. And yeah, I just think it's a really cool channel because like his video essays are really good. Like he really talks about everything in order. He has like really good editing where he has like all of like the gameplay on screen or stuff that's like relevant. He kind of shows like for the No More Heroes thing, for instance, he'll have a gameplay, then he'll cut to stuff that has to do with like Suda 51 and like stuff from like his interview, and he'll insert that in there. Then he'll go back to that gameplay, and he'll explain stuff in the game, show the footage, and like it feels like watching almost like a little documentary, you know, almost. Like he's just really good at his video essays. They're all really long too. Like each of the Silent Hill ones is over an hour, and the No More Heroes one was like more than 3 hours.
Yeah.
But he's really good at what he does. Like he really goes in depth. He really explains everything. He, you know, even talks about like some of the, you know, background stuff, like the what the developers were thinking, like their question, you know, their background stuff on it. So I really enjoy it. You know, he doesn't just have the Silent Hill. He has the three Silent Hill videos. He has one on Bully, you know, the Rockstar game.
Yeah.
He has one on Dead Space. He has one on Deadly Premonition. He has where did I see it? I guess one about Manhunt. He has one about the Outer Wilds. And then this older stuff is Postal, you know, stuff like that. It is older stuff I've never watched, but he has all sorts of like weird older stuff that's kind of wacky. I would have to check it out. It has to do mostly with martial arts accidents and people being dumb and stuff. So I haven't seen those, but maybe they're interesting. But yeah, if you at least if you focus on his video essays, they're really well put together. And he's definitely still making stuff because his second to newest video was 3 months ago, and his newest one is from 2 weeks ago. So it looks like he puts out something like maybe like every other month or something.
That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, and so that's why I recommend it. And like I said, his name is Totally Pointless TV. He does video essays and slash retrospectives. And I'm really excited because like for the last year, that's what he's been doing. Once he kind of moved away from like his other kind of like weirder content. And so I'm excited to see what else he covers, so that's pretty cool.
I think I'm definitely gonna check him out too.
Yeah. And we'll have to see what else he covers, I'm pretty interested. Alrighty, guys, and that's going to be it for this week. If you're interested, check out Totally Pointless TV. Check out the stuff that we talked about. Links are in the description below for each of the news stories. Hopefully, you guys will check out the different anime that I talked about. Maybe you'll check out some of that gaming stuff that Legend of Jonathan talked about. We'll see. But yeah, we will try our best to be back next week. I will have more anime to talk about for sure. Legend of Jonathan, he's trying to have some anime to talk about as well. And yeah, we'll see what happens. But that's been it for this episode. We'll try our hardest to be back next week, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.